Imagine you've finally had a good month. You've got an extra $500 sitting in your account, and for once, it isn't already promised to a bill. You're staring at your phone, hovering over two buttons. One pays down that nagging credit card or student loan. The other puts that money into the stock market to start your future self fund. Which one do you pick? Most people feel paralyzed by this choice because we're taught that all debt is a financial sin. We're told to be debt-free at all costs, that it's the only path to financial peace. But the truth is, the world's wealthiest people don't just pay off debt. They use a secret framework to decide when to kill a loan and when to let it ride. They understand that sometimes paying off a low-interest loan is actually the wrong financial move. This framework is called the F2 rule, and understanding it will fundamentally change how you view every dollar you earn and every debt you carry. We're going to break down the two sides of this rule, show you the invisible barrier that changes the game, and give you a four-step playbook you can use on your very next payday. Building wealth isn't just about math, it's about psychology. The F-squared rule stands for finances and feelings. You have to satisfy both to win the long game. Let's start with the cold, hard math. The finance side of the rule is simple. It's a race between your debt interest rate and your expected investment return. Carrying high-interest debt, like a credit card at 22%, while trying to earn an average of 8% in the stock market is like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. You are bleeding money faster than you can grow it. The 22% interest is a guaranteed annual loss, while the 8% market return is only an average and is never guaranteed. The threshold is clear. If your debt interest is higher than what you can reasonably expect to earn in the market, which we typically peg at around 7 to 8% for a diversified index fund, the math says you must pay the debt. Why? Because paying off a 20% credit card is a guaranteed, risk-free 20% return on your money. No stock, no crypto, no real estate deal can promise you that. It is the single best investment you can make. Every dollar you put toward that high-interest debt is a dollar that stops working against you and starts working for you. This is where you stop the bleeding before you try to build anything. Now let's talk about the feelings side. Debt isn't just a number, it's a bandwidth tax. Research has shown that carrying chronic, high-stress debt can actually lower your functional IQ by as much as 13 points. Think about that, 13 points. That's because your brain is constantly in survival mode, preoccupied with the next payment, the next due date, and the fear of a financial emergency. This mental drain, this bandwidth tax, makes you less effective at your job, less present with your family, and more prone to impulsive, poor financial decisions. If your debt is keeping you awake at 3 a.m., if it's causing arguments in your relationship, or if it's the first thing you think about when you wake up, the math doesn't matter. Your peace of mind does. The F-squared rule acknowledges that sometimes the psychological relief of eliminating a debt, even if the interest rate is technically low, is worth more than the few extra dollars you might have earned in the market. You are buying back your mental clarity, and that is priceless. Most people fail to build wealth because they treat it as a linear process, but it's actually more like pushing a boulder up a hill. The first $1,000 is the hardest because you're doing all the heavy lifting. You're the only engine. But once you hit the invisible barrier, once you have $10,000 in a safety net, everything shifts. Why $10,000? Because this amount is typically enough to cover a major car repair, a high-deductible medical bill, or a few months of job loss. It is the financial equivalent of a life raft. Suddenly, a check engine light is a minor annoyance rather than a life-altering catastrophe. This safety net moves your brain from reactive to proactive. When you have this buffer, you can finally afford to look at your debt through the cold, rational lens of the F2 rule without panic. You have bought yourself the mental space to make smart decisions, not just survival decisions. Before this barrier, you are fighting for survival. After this barrier, you are building for the future. You need to prioritize getting to this $10,000 buffer as quickly as possible because it is the foundation upon which all other wealth is built. Now that we understand the F2 rule and the invisible barrier, let's talk about the one major exception where you should always invest before paying off even high-interest debt: the employer match. If your boss offers a 401k match, say they match 100% of the first 3% you contribute, that is a 100% immediate return on your money. You put in $1,000 and you instantly have $2,000. Leaving that on the table is like refusing a guaranteed winning lottery ticket because you're worried about the tax on the winnings. It is financial insanity. You must capture the match first, no matter what your debt situation is. It is the only guaranteed 100% return you will ever see. After the match, you can then attack the high-interest debt. But there are other wealth multipliers to consider, like the health savings account, HSA. If you have a high-deductible health plan, the HSA is the only triple tax advantageous account in the entire tax code. Money goes in tax-free, grows tax-free, and comes out tax-free for qualified medical expenses. If you are maxing out your HSA and getting your employer match, you are already playing the game at a high level. The wealthy view debt fundamentally different than the average person. They collect asset debt, loans for things that grow, like real estate or a business, and they avoid consumer debt, like the plague. If you have a mortgage at 3% and the market is returning 8%, you are actually repaying that loan with cheaper money because of inflation. Think about it. You are paying back $2026 with $2036, which have less purchasing power. The debt is shrinking in real terms, while your asset is growing. This is the core of the borrow step in the buy, borrow, die strategy. The trap here is the loyalty penalty, and it doesn't just apply to jobs, it applies to your money. Don't be loyal to a low-interest loan if that money could be out there earning you thousands more in an index fund. If your debt is below the 7% threshold, you should be allocating that extra capital to your investment machine, not to paying off the loan early. You are sacrificing a higher return for a lower one simply because of a psychological need to be debt-free. So how do you apply the F2 rule on your next payday? Here is your 4-step, 15-second payday routine. Step 1. Stop the bleeding. If you have any debt with an interest rate over 8%, that's credit cards, personal loans, or high-interest car loans, you must kill it first. It's a guaranteed win. This is the finance side of the F2 rule demanding your attention. Step 2. Grab the free money. Never skip your employer match. Contribute enough to your 401k to get the full match. This is the only time you invest before paying off debt. Step 3. Build the life raft. Automate $25 or $50 a check until you have at least $2,000 and ideally $10,000 in a separate savings account. This is your psychological firewall. This satisfies the feeling side of the F2 rule, buying you peace of mind and mental bandwidth. Step 4. Feed the machine. Once the high-interest debt is gone and your life raft is built, redirect those payments, the money you were already used to spending, into boring, low-cost index funds. This is where your money starts working for you, and you transition from being a debtor to a capital allocator. The system is designed to keep you predictable through monthly payments. It wants you to be a consumer, not an owner. But once you understand the F2 rule, you stop being a debtor and start being a capital allocator. You are the CEO of your own balance sheet. You don't need to live like a monk. You don't need to sacrifice every joy. You just need to decide that your future freedom is worth more than a status symbol with cup holders. Which side of the F2 rule are you on right now? Finances or feelings? Let me know in the comments below. Hit subscribe to keep uncovering the secret playbook they didn't teach us in school. The game is on. Now go build something.